Alright, this is Brother Q, and I know I've been missing for a little while, but I had a lot to share with you. So, I'm going to get right back to it, but for right now, I'm going to give you a story, and I like to call that story Buzzard Gulch. Okay, you remember, a long time ago, they used to have these old Western movies, and in the Western movies, you'd come upon a town and there was a sign at the city limits, and the sign would say Buzzard Gulch, population 250, and below the population it would give you a little bit of information, and that would be the city ordinance. Now, the city ordinance would be, things you couldn't do, things you could do, like had to go to church on Sunday, couldn't carry guns in town, stuff like that, right? So basically, it was an unspoken contract. So what that meant was that if you showed up in Buzzard Gulch, that you agreed to that contract, no matter who you were before. You could have been the king of the world, but you gave up those rights and those privileges just by showing up in Buzzard Gulch, and you had to abide by the ordinance. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, you come on into Buzzard Gulch, you go into saloon, you get a drink, you go hang out, play some cards, get a bath. Most of those guys are like cowboys, and, they would need to get supplies and things like that, kind of like what they do on the Waltons, where they strap up John Boy, going into town, get what they needed, and head back out to Walton's Mountain. But that's not what we're talking about here. So basically, you showed up in the middle of Buzzard Gulch. That meant that you agreed as an unspoken agreement to abide by the ordinance of that town. All right. Now, let us say, for the sake of argument, that Buzzard Gulch is, for all intents and purposes, what we will call a revenue generating district. Okay, so that means that if you showed up in Buzzard Gulch, it was fair to assume that you came to go to a saloon, to get some drinks, get a bath, party a little bit, and go back out, But it was pretty much agreed that you came to conduct commerce in the local municipality. And as we said before, a municipality, for the sake of this exercise, is a revenue generating district. All right. Now, let's move forward to today. Think of a mall, any mall. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, right? And in Brooklyn, we have a mall called Kings Plaza. Now, in Kings Plaza, or any mall across the country for that matter, is a revenue generating district. Okay? Now, let's talk about it. How do we know this? The mall has an owner, and they have bylaws and conditions which enable you to come there and conduct commerce. All of the vendors that are there, they are there because they have paid for the privilege to be there to conduct the flow of commerce. Remember, it is a revenue generating district. Now, the owner or owners of said revenue generating district, they have bylaws and rules for the vendors. They hire private security force to keep the flow of commerce moving. Pretty cut and dry, pretty clear. Okay. So now on the weekend, you go down and you want to get some Cinnabons and some sneakers and, get some Nikes and hang out with your friends, maybe go to movies or have dinner or whatever. And, it's pretty cut and dry. All right. Now, let us say, for the sake of argument, a gentleman decides that, you know what? I am going to take that open storefront and set up a homestead. I'm going to, get some fake grass, put it in the front, and bring my family, get a dog, and we're going to set up in the storefront. And he's going to live there. Now, for most of us, we would, look at that or hear that and be like, oh, that's stupid. Nobody would do that. That would be crazy. Okay, but for the sake of this exercise, he did that. So now, remember, him and his family have paid for the privilege to be there, okay? But now the kids get up and go to school. He has to get up and go to work, moving around. Kids get up at school at maybe 7 o'clock to go to work. Now, the mall doesn't open up till 10 o'clock. So it's a slight inconvenience for them to let the kids out to go to school. Okay, you got a dog, you got to walk the dog, walk the dog in the mall, that's a problem, blah, blah, blah. And you say all of the things that are, your God-given rights, and that's everyday stuff. You would think that wouldn't necessarily be a problem, especially since they pay for the privilege of being there. Now, the issue here is it is a revenue generating district. One, is him and his family conducting the flow of commerce? Yes or no? Well, obviously the answer is no, because they're just living everyday life. So, said security force is now, well, you walk the dog, and it's an inconvenience. They're not going to actually come out and tell you that, but they're going to say, all right, well, you walk the dog in the mall and, there's a fee and a fine for walking the dog in the mall. And you were walking around, your kids had to go to school and you had to go to work. Well, we had to open up and you guys are walking around the mall before the mall actually opened. So there's a fee and there's a fine, blah, blah, blah. So basically what is happening is that said security force is creating conditions to force you into the flow of commerce. So now everything that should have been, normal, everyday, God-given rights is now a problem, and there's a fee attached to it. Sometimes it can be called, a fine, a tax, yada, yada. Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here, and I'll see you right back in part 2.